You know your insiders, Darren Dreger, Pierre, LeBrun, and Frank Seravalli. Gentlemen, we've watched players like Pierre-Luc Dubois and Ryan Dzingel get traded to Canadian teams and then disappear for 2 weeks, the mandatory 14-day quarantine when you re-enter Canada. Frank, as we're 1 month away from TradeCentre, is the NHL trying to do something to get rid of this or at least minimize it?
They're certainly trying, James. In fact, the NHL and the 7 Canadian teams have been trying for the last number of months to get an exemption to that quarantine. But with a month to go before the deadline, they are optimistic that it remains a possibility at this point. They're hoping to find out ASAP, but certainly well before the deadline. I mean, what teams have been willing to do on the U.S. side to avoid some of that quarantine when changing teams, with players driving 16 hours between cities, or one team dropping a player off at another team's hotel in order to keep these bubbles intact. Well, certainly it would be interesting, but that would be welcome news to some GMs that are trying to make some moves, and to do so without a quarantine, 14 days, would be music to their ears.
Not sure it would be to a Canadian team, but Eric Staal in Buffalo, his name is coming up a lot. And it was back in 05-06. He was just a kid in his second season winning the Stanley Cup with Carolina. Is there a chance, Pierre, that it's the full circle of life career-wise and he ends up back there?
Right. Well, you use the right word. There is a chance, James. And the Carolina Hurricanes this past week have discussed the possibility of this internally. I wouldn't say it's a top of the agenda item, but what I'm told is that the Hurricanes have talked about, hey, if Eric Staal is still in the Buffalo roster closer to April 12th, maybe we give the Sabres a call and see what it would take to bring him back here to Carolina. So it's a storyline that I think a lot of people could get behind. But in the meantime, you mentioned it, there could be a Canadian team or two that makes a push for Eric Staal way before that, and that will put Kevyn Adams, the Buffalo Sabres, in an interesting position. Do you take your best deal a couple weeks out, or do you think it gets better with Carolina closer to April 12th? So, story that is developing for sure.
And another developing story in Buffalo, Pierre, is the health of their captain, Jack Eichel. Eichel is in quarantine. Now, it's his right, and he sought a second opinion out of state. So that means that he's got to quarantine before rejoining the Sabres in 7 days. Now, he was seeing a specialist, so the information hasn't been returned yet from that doctor to the specifics, to the diagnosis or the prognosis of the Eichel injury. The Sabres don't seem overly concerned, but it's wait and see for the moment.
The All-Canadian division has gotten mostly rave reviews this year, and it's led to talk of maybe this could be continued. Is that a pipe dream, Pierre?
Yeah, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, during a media availability on Thursday, asked him point blank about divisional alignment post this year, and he said that more than likely the NHL would be going back to the divisions that we knew before this year, that this was a one-off for this season. And he went on to say that maybe in going back to the old divisions that there'd be more divisional games. He said divisional games. He didn't say all Canadian games. So I know there are some Canadian team governors and executives that hope that at least out of all this, there'd be more all Canadian games, but that's not what Gary Bettman said on this day. So again, we'll keep an eye on that.
A full year, calendar year, after the OHL had to shut down their season with most other leagues, are they finally close to playing again, Dregs?
Well, the Ontario Hockey League is hopeful that they are going to receive the approval to return to play from the Ontario provincial government at some point in the next few days. That's the expectation. That is the hope. Now, they've got their return to play all planned out, and it will be 4 hubs, 5 teams in each hub. No clear idea as to how many games they can play, because they don't know if they'll be able to start before, say, April 10th. They have a playoff format figured out, but they don't know that they'll have a championship at the end of all of it. Again, this is all under the jurisdiction of Ontario Health.
And new concerns about variants and a third wave. Let's hope these guys can play and get in some sort of season.